What's up, everybody? I'm your tech and photo enthusiast, and I'm going to be testing out the PS2 emulation performance of my Odin 2. Now, I posted on Reddit asking all of you what games you wanted to see played. I added a couple more, and I'm up to 25 games that we're going to be testing on here. Now, when I test these games out, I'm going to start every game at 6x resolution and Vulkan backend. And then just to keep things simple and more of your average Joe, I'm only going to be adjusting the resolution scale or the back end, whether it's Vulkan or OpenGL, maybe software, probably not software. But basically, those are the only things I'm going to be tweaking, only because I don't fully understand every setting in this emulator. And quite honestly, most people downloading this emulator probably don't either. So I will just stick to the two basic ones, and then we're going to see what resolution we can get all these games to play at. Now, fair warning, all these games I'm going to be playing mostly just the beginning of the game because I don't have a save file for every single one of them. I also don't know where in each game it's most demanding or buggy or glitchy or anything like that. So basically, I'm just going to start each game in the beginning, see how it performs, and if I need to lower back the resolution, or if I need to change it from Vulkan to OpenGL, we're going to be playing with each one. If you skip to the end of the video, I'll have a chart that just shows every game and what resolution I was able to play it at, along with what backend I used to get it to run mostly smooth or at full speed. With that said, let's start out with Shadow of the Colossus. So running in an open field, in Shadow of the Colossus, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, gives us about 20 to 22 frames per second. And it's really bad right now. Now we're going to try OpenGL, and we gained about a couple frames per second. We're going about 25, 28. Yeah, we're right about the 27 frames per second right now. So basically we'll stick to OpenGL, and then let's try 5x resolution. Still not full speed. 4x resolution. And we're close. We're at the 50 frames per second, just not there yet. And 3x seems to be working pretty close to full speed. That's 60 frames per second. It actually feels great and smooth, with a couple dips to 58 frames per second here and there. Overall, very playable at 3x. You may want to drop it down just a smidge if you want to keep it at full speed, especially because right now I haven't even gotten into any action in the game. Yeah, and then now coming here with all the light rays, we're at about 48 frames per second, which is not great. Seems like 2x resolution is probably where you'll want to be. And it's still dipping here and there. Yeah, at this point, I don't know if it's the game not being very well optimized or what. But it's very bad. Right now I'm at 2x resolution, OpenGL backend. And when I'm in this little forested area, I'm basically running at 30 frames per second, but not full speed. It is very laggy right now. Let's try 1x just for fun. And it seems like 1x is completely playable, but it still has some dips here and there. Overall, pretty playable. And then just for fun, we're going to try the software render. Okay. Software renderer is basically PowerPoint mode where you're just watching the slides go through. So for Shadow of the Colossus, I would say your best bet's probably the 1x, maybe 2x at best. Now, something to note is that the Odin 2 has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 SoC, which is a very powerful chip. However, the developer of AetherSX2 abandoned the app about a year ago, which is before when this chip came out. So if there's any issues or any optimization needed on this chip, unfortunately, none of it's going to be implemented because it came out after the abandonment of the app. Regardless though, I mean, this game is somewhat playable if you want to play it at 1x or 2x. But I'm sure with other games, you'll get much better performance depending on the game. Some games will be more difficult to emulate than others. Keep in mind, this is just the first game, which happens to be a very demanding game too. So right now, I'm gonna basically call it quits on this game and then go on to the next game, which is Jak and Daxter. So here we have Jak and Daxter, the Precursor Legacy. I believe that's how you say it. Basically, it's running full speed, 6x, OpenGL backend. However, I noticed there's this weird shadow. Basically, if I go to my 10x mode, you can see this weird like shadow being put right behind Daxter or Jak. I actually don't know who's who. However, if we switch to OpenGL for the backend, that completely goes away. But there you have it. This game is running easily, full speed, no hiccups or anything like that. So here we have Jak II running full speed, 6x resolution, and OpenGL for the backend. Fortunately, under Vulkan, it had the same weird shadow issue that the first game had. Yeah, you can see here it's running full speed, even with all these little lasers shooting around at me. Next up is Jak III. We're going to leave it 6x resolution and then OpenGL backend. We're going to see how well this game also performs. So unfortunately, this game is running at around 40 FPS at 6x resolution. So we're going to drop it down to 5x. So running this game at 5x resolution gets us right about 50 frames per second, but it's just not full speed. 4x resolution seems to be right at the 50 frames per second as well. Very interesting, it made almost no difference. So even at 3x resolution, we're not getting full speed. I mean, we're right about 55 frames per second, but not full speed. So I don't know if this game is just demanding or it's because it just wasn't optimized for this chip. Either way, I mean, honestly, you could just put this game at 5x and it's very playable. It's hardly noticeable between the 50 frames per second and like 58 frames per second. Number 5 on the list is Star Wars Battlefront, which I have at 6x Vulkan running full speed. However, the game looks a little bit blurry. So I'm going to see if switching to Vulkan or actually OpenGL makes it any better. Oh wow. Okay, so we have a lot of missing textures when we switch to OpenGL. So we're going to go back to Vulkan for this one. Yeah, so Vulkan is probably the way to go. Running full speed, but it's a little bit blurry. I'm not really sure what to do with this one. Regardless, I mean, it's very playable. It's not too blurry, I would say. So you can definitely have fun with this one. Next on the list, Star Wars Battlefront 2 this time. And it looks like it has the same issue as the first one. It's running at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, full speed, no issue at all, but it's also blurry. I don't know how to explain the blurriness. It's not blurry like it's a low resolution, but it's blurry like there's two different textures overlapped with one another. Kind of odd. So you can see here it's running, full speed at 6x resolution. It's just blurry. So if you can get over that, I mean, this would be a fun game to play as well. So the next game we have on the list is Sly Cooper, the first one. And it's not exactly at full speed. Right now we're at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. And we're running right around the 45 frames per second. So let's try 5x and see if that improves any. Well, actually, let's try the OpenGL. See if that improves anything. So OpenGL, looks like we're at full speed with OpenGL. So it looks like 6x with OpenGL still has a few dips. But I'm going to try out 5x resolution. Okay, it looks like we are at full speed, 5x resolution, OpenGL backend. Okay, next on the list, Sly Cooper 2. We're at 6x resolution, OpenGL backend, and it is extremely slow. So I'm going to switch to Vulkan and see if that makes any difference. Switching to Vulkan is even worse. So we're going to stick to OpenGL for this game, and then we're going to drop it down to, let's see, 5x is getting us about 48, 50 frames per second. And it's kind of dipping between the 55, 60. Yeah, in this situation, I think it's probably best to go with 4x for the best resolution. And 4x is giving us full speed without any hiccups. So 4x still seems to lag here and there. So I'm going to drop it down to 3x and see how that performs. So here we've got 3x resolution, OpenGL backend, and the game's running full speed. No issues so far. Yeah, and I think that's it for this one. Let's go on to the next one, which, if you haven't guessed it by now, it's going to be Sly Cooper 3. So Sly Cooper 3, 6x resolution, OpenGL backend. Just like the others, it is not full speed. So I'm going to go down. I'm actually going to drop it straight to 4x this time, just to see how that goes. Yeah, and 4x even has some dips down to about 50. Yeah, we're about 50 FPS. So let's go down to 3x. And remember, your mileage may vary because I'm only in the beginning. I'm not actually playing the entire game to see how well it emulates. So you may even need to drop it down, or maybe you can even go higher during certain parts of the mission, or parts of the game, not the mission, my bad. Yeah, so now that we're at 3x resolution, OpenGL backend, the game seems to be running at full speed, which is, pretty nice. On to the next one. Next game we're going to play is Second Sight, which was a game recommended by another Redditor. A game I am not very familiar with, so we're going to see how this one runs. So here I've got Second Sight running, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it's running at 30 FPS, but it doesn't feel very smooth. It feels like there's a little bit of stutter or lag. So I'm going to try moving it over to OpenGL and see if that makes a difference. And it looks like having it at OpenGL doesn't seem to be making much of a difference. So I'm going to go back to Vulkan, and then I'm going to try out 5x resolution. So it looks like it's running just fine at 5x resolution. I don't see any, stutters or any type of slowdown. Yeah, for this game, I would say 5x at resolution, Vulkan backend is very playable. Next game we're going to go to is TimeSplitters Future Perfect. But before I start that game, I just want to mention that I started this video with 99% battery life on the Odin. I've been recording for over an hour and a half now, right at the hour, 35-minute, 40-minute mark, and I'm down to 76% battery. That is just playing PS2 games this entire time, switching settings and all that stuff you've been seeing me do. So with that, you could probably get right around the 6 hours of battery life just from playing PS2 games. And that's awesome from this device. And you know what? What else would be awesome? If you guys smash that like button and subscribe so you can always see you guys in the next video. With that said, let's go on to TimeSplitters. Let's see how this game does. So here we have TimeSplitters Future Perfect. And we're getting about 50 FPS, 45 even. And that is Vulkan backend, 6x resolution. So I'm going to switch it over to OpenGL and see if that improves anything. Looks like with OpenGL, we're right about the 50 frames per second. So it doesn't look like much has changed. Now I'm going to drop it down to 5x resolution. I'm going to stick to Vulkan for this game. 5x resolution looks like we're getting some dips even down to about 40 FPS once these enemies showed up. So here I've got it running at 4x resolution, and it looks like when there's a lot going on, it'll drop down to 45, 50 frames per second. But overall, the game has been very smooth and very playable at 4x. However, if we went down to 3x, it's probably at that point that it's going to be a solid full speed 60 FPS all time. So it looks like having the game at 2x resolution makes it run full speed without any dips. However, even at 3 or 4x resolution with the dips, it was very, very playable, and I didn't notice it, dipping too much. That made it, unenjoyable. Yeah, so for this game, I would say if you want to play it nice and safe, full speed, definitely go to 2x. But if you want better resolution and don't mind a few dips here and there, I would stick to the 3 or 4x mode. The next game on the list is Dark Cloud, which was another game recommended by a Redditor. And basically, I'm at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and the game is running at full speed without any issues. Very nice. I don't think I'm gonna have to tweak anything really because I don't have any issues right now. We're at 60 FPS constant. Now we're gonna try out Ratchet and Clank, the first game. And I was told that at Planet 3, with all the flying cars on top, basically supposed to dip down, but I am seeing it run pretty well. I mean, we're at 60 FPS, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it's pretty stable. I will say that there is something I noticed once I get to this part of the game. Now watch this, it's gonna drop really badly. Notice I'm down to like 30 FPS. And then it's back up to full speed. And I noticed every single time in that section of before, the frames would just drop to 30 for no reason. Watch this. I'm gonna go all the way to 1x resolution. So right now I'm at 1x resolution and I'm going to reload my save. So here we are, 1x resolution. It's full speed, just like it was at 6x resolution. But right in this area, it's going to start to slow down. And look at that. Without fail, it's down to 30 FPS for a split second. And now it's back to being full speed. So it seems to continue dropping just in that section of Planet 3 in Ratchet and Clank. And I don't know why. It does it whether I'm in 6x resolution or even 1x resolution, which it should play the game without any issue. Now check this out. Some of you might be wondering, maybe because of everything going on with all the enemies and the particles. But watch this. I'm going to go to that area and I'm going to kill none of the enemies. I'm just going to get rid of this guy right here. I'm just going to run and do absolutely nothing. And you can see it dropped again. And now it's back to full speed. Now it's full speed. I'm attacking them. Everything is running just fine. So again, not sure what the issue is, but it seems to slow down just in that section of the game. Other than that, it's been solid 60 FPS, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. And the game looks awesome. Next on the list is Metal Gear Solid 2. And yeah, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. It is a PowerPoint slide. So we're gonna try out 5x. Although honestly, I don't think it's gonna run it. So 5x resolution gets us up to right around the 40 FPS mark, which is still not full speed and does not look great at all. Now we're at 4x resolution. The game is a lot more playable. We're right around the 50 to 55 FPS mark. However, I would personally just drop it straight to 3x just to get nice full speed performance. Yeah, so at 3x resolution, we're at full speed, 60 FPS. Looks like no issue here. Next on the list is Metal Gear Solid 3. And we're at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. And the game seems to be running at full speed, no issues. Not bad. Now we're going to try out Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix, which is one of my most favorite racing games to come out for the PS2. And here we are at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it is running great. Full speed. No hiccups, despite how bad I'm doing right now. Quite honestly, I haven't played this in a while, so I forgot how sensitive some of these cars can be. Number 17 on the list is Marc Ecko's Getting Up. And we are at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. And we can see here it is running full speed. 30 FPS with a couple dips down to like 29, 28. But overall, very playable. Next on the list is True Crime Streets of LA. And no matter what, I can't get this game to run. I get to this menu right over here. I hit new game, and that's it. It froze. It will not do anything else for me. I've tried this on Vulkan. I've tried it with software rendering. I tried it with OpenGL. 1x resolution, 6x resolution, it just will not run the game. I may get to a point where it asks me to save the file. Before I start the game, I hit yes, it freezes, crashes. Or if I hit no, continue without saving, it'll ask me to input a name, and then either it freezes or it like lets me enter like letters, but I can't see the keyboard, and then I can't get anywhere after that. So for this game, at least on AetherSX2, it's a no-go for me. Next up on the list is Hot Shot Series Golf. And I don't think this game is optimized at all to be ran on these PS2 emulators. Right now I'm at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. The game looks great, but it is laggy. Look at that. We're getting about 18 frames per second. And here's the thing, even if I go all the way to 1x resolution, it's still not that great. We're getting 20 frames per second. I mean, it feels better, but it's not great. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend playing this game on your Odin 2 personally. But we're gonna try the next one out, which is the Hot Shots Tennis. And guess what? This one also seems not to be very well optimized. I'm at 1x resolution right now, Vulkan backend, and we're getting like 20 frames per second. This is honestly pretty ridiculous. Next on the list is Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Right now it is running at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and honestly, I mean, it's running well, full speed. Next up, we have Prince of Persia: Warrior Within, and here we have it, 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it's really close to full speed, but not quite there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it to OpenGL and see if that does any better. And it looks like it's about the same. It's a little better, but not so much. So I'm going to switch it over now to 5x resolution, which I think should solve pretty much any starter that we have. Yeah, now we're at 5x resolution, and it looks like we are full speed. Now we have the third Prince of Persia game, which is the Two Thrones. And I've got it at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend. It seems to be running at full speed. However, I'm noticing the same like ghosting, double image, blurriness that I noticed in the Star Wars Battlefront games. Unfortunately, switching from Vulkan to OpenGL didn't seem to fix that. But the game's running at full speed, 6x resolution. Now we have God of War 2 running at 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it is not full speed at all. So I'm going to try to actually bring this down. Let's see what happens if we go to 5x. 5x, we're right around the 45 FPS mark, just not there yet. And 4x, we are pretty much full speed, no issues here at all. Oh yeah, I mean it'll dip down to about like 52, so I would say 4x is extremely playable. But if you really want full speed, I would probably drop it down to just 3x to play it safe. Last, and my favorite game of all time, is going to be Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi 3. We have it set to 6x resolution, Vulkan backend, and it seems to be running not at full speed. Yeah, nope, not at full speed. Let's try 5x resolution and see how that does. 5x seems to be very playable. Now that we have it set to 5x resolution, it seems to be running just fine. It does dip down to like the 27, 28 FPS, but honestly, it's really not that bad. I guess if you want to play it safely, I would probably go to the 4x resolution, but 5x is very playable. I would have no problem playing like this. Well, there you have it. This thing ran pretty much every single game at like 3x resolution or better, except for a couple that either didn't run or were just way more demanding than I expected, or just not optimized. Keep in mind, the developer abandoned the app almost a year ago, so I'm not surprised if, you know, some of these games just won't run either now or even in the future. That said, I'm very impressed with the device. I was very happy to see how well it ran all these PS2 games. And then I'm going to have a chart pretty much right now showing you what everything went through and how it ran. what settings I used, and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to pause the video and take a quick look, go for it. And then the best thing of all, I've been recording for maybe 3.5 hours now, almost 4 hours, and I'm at 44% battery on this device. So for me, that's great. Basically, if you have like a long flight, a long road trip, you name it, you can honestly take this and game for hours before needing to plug in and recharge. And then the best thing of all, everything ran great. The screen also looked amazing, especially when you put these games at 6x resolution, you want to plug it to a TV and play on a bigger screen, it can actually handle the 4K resolution. Next up, I'm going to see how it does when it comes to GameCube games and then Wii games as well. I'm planning another 15 GameCube games and then 10 Wii games. Hopefully those will run as well. That said, thank you all for watching. Subscribe if you want to see the next video, and take care.